Friday afternoon, everybody. How are you doing? I'm assuming you're there. Okay, good.
Weekend.
I'm here.
I'm doing great. I'm doing great on weekends.
Okay,
I mean, almost weekend.
good.
Need to finish this and
We're
then.
always doing great on weekends. Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Then it's real weekend. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, in my
So
case,
let
weekend
me
means that.
clear all this up. So
I
we're going to
don't
jump
have
right.
Yeah, go ahead. Jump.
You've got some big delay, or I've got big delay. I'm not sure which it is, but that's okay.
It's a mystery.
Go ahead and explain your weekend. Explain your weekend.
No, my weekend means that I don't do any office work most of the time.
Oh,
Not that I'm not
Okay.
working, really.
all right. So we're going to come right out of the gate. By the way, I'm Darren. This is Victor, as he ducks out of
I'm
frame.
Victor.
We are the co-host of the DevOps Paradox podcast. Thanks for stopping by today. We've got some news. We're going to lead with a little bit of news today. And for the people that are here live, in case you didn't see Victor's tweet earlier this week, the Jenkins X book has now been open sourced.
Yes. That means two things.
Okay, go ahead.
Anybody can get it for free, and
Yes.
anybody can contribute and improve it. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I cannot maintain everything I do. So sooner or later, things I do need to go out of my domain so that I can dedicate my time to other stuff.
Yep. So if you want to, and after the show, we'll update the description and the links will be there. But if you want to go to it right now, you can go out to Victor's GitHub repo and look for DevOps 2.6. There you can fork it, put in PRs, do the things. Right?
Yeah. Do
Close
the good
enough.
things.
Are you okay out there? Is somebody coming to get you? I hear sirens.
No, not for me.
Not
Not
for
that I
you.
know. Let's
Okay.
see. If in a couple of minutes I disappear,
That
you're
could
right.
be it. So anyway,
Yes.
you've already opened yours today. I am back. I didn't have anything last week, but I'm back with my. Actually, I probably shouldn't show the thing. I read some things this week. So let's. If you have your beverage of choice, and if you haven't topped it off yet, go for it. Okay. So that was sort of the quick and easy message. So if you want to, you can get the book for free, but there is no longer any releases for it. You can't purchase it. If you want to bake it into a PDF, do you even have a way to bake that yourself?
Not necessarily, but I did, like a couple of hours ago, I did upload to the repo PDF and EPUB and Mobi, I think, and a link to them from a README.
Yeah.
So should be fine. Now, if people contribute, I have absolutely no issue to. I mean, first of all, I will keep updating it when I can. I just cannot guarantee that I will have time. And if people contribute, I will click that button in Limpub to generate another edition. That's fine.
And we'll talk more about Victor's time towards the end of the show, because we're going to bring up the survey again, but not yet.
Yes.
So a little bit of news. I saw this break today. Adopt OpenJDK. Now I know you could care less about the JDK, but it's joining Eclipse Foundation, and that is actually a pretty big deal. And I've got a little screen here to show that if I can find my. Yes, that's the one I want. Okay, cool. So here's the press release from today, to where Adopt OpenJDK is moving to Eclipse. Now, if you don't understand it all, I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand it either. But Adopt OpenJDK appears to be the answer for Java if you don't want to be under the Oracle licensing agreement. Again, I am not a lawyer.
So is this without cooperation from Oracle or?
As far as I understand it, the answer is yes. Oh, and they're also changing the name. It's now called Adoptium. So instead of OpenJDK, it is now Adoptium. So there you go.
I'm not following Java for a couple of years, so I'm kind of
Yeah.
indifferent, right? And I don't want to say good or, but when I was following Java, I would open a champagne bottle if this happened when I was invested in it.
Yep.
And invite all my friends to drink for free.
So if you want to talk more about it, there's feedback on the proposal here. Go check this out. Again, down in the description of the show today, there will be a link off to this press release. Now, that being said, I found a brand new Kubernetes distro that everybody needs to use. This is a joke, by the way, just in case. It's called Kubernetes Goat. Have you heard of this?
No, I mean, I heard of it because you told me before this session, and I spent very limited amount of time on it, so I did not try it out yet, but the idea is brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant, I think.
So here's the brilliant idea. It's designed to be intentionally vulnerable so you can figure out how to do security. Their very top disclaimer as soon as you get below the image. Kubernetes Goat creates intentionally vulnerable resources in your cluster. Do not deploy Kubernetes Goat in a production environment or alongside any sensitive cluster resources. And then it goes through all the different scenarios.
I must say that disclaimer is kind of like out of place. If anybody decided to find something called Kubernetes Goat and deploy it to production, that person deserves whatever is coming. No need for a disclaimer.
Yes. It's a joke, but not really. So here's the handful of scenarios that already exist here. What was interesting is this one right here, Helm v2 with Tiller to pwn the cluster. That would be very interesting. But could be a fun weekend project in everybody's spare time. Now that summertime is here, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, people are hopefully able to get outside a little bit. So you're not going to spend a lot of time here. So if you haven't looked at this yet, it could be interesting, especially if you're on the security side of Kubernetes. Because this may make you think just a little different. Okay.
I mean, when I think about it, it might be just as useful or even more useful to people who are not in security, right?
Yeah.
Because it might actually change the way how you develop your applications and do whatever you're doing. It's kind of like a training.
Yeah. So that's GOAT. Now, we actually recorded a podcast this morning. I won't say who it was with. It was with a guest, and he will probably be on in a couple of weeks. But we were talking about serverless. That was one of the things that we talked about. And then I saw this pop up this week. Now, I understand the why. I understand why you want to do that. And this article explains it. They give you some examples. They go through it all. As somebody that has to work with EFS, and they even go into it here, EFS is not a high-performing file system. I would have to say probably by design. Right? I'm trying to find the section here. I meant to mark it off. But this is, I get it, but I don't get it. That's the problem. Here we go. Understanding EFS performance. It's very important to understand how EFS performance works. Let me say that's a great understatement. If you go this direction, you really have to understand what you're getting yourself into. EFS is not SSD local to the machine. That's all I should have to say. You've been laughing and snickering the whole time. Why don't you go ahead and take your 2 cents on this?
I mean, it's trying to expand the usage of a platform outside what it's supposed to be. think that would be my description. And I understand everybody does that, right? That's similar like when Ansible convinced half of the world that it's a good idea to use Ansible to deploy applications. It's not. It is a very good idea to manage your infrastructure. Great, right? And I understand that everybody wants to expand their product beyond the initial user base, right? Or initial set of use cases. But it's terribly wrong. If you go back near the top, there was a list of examples.
Yep.
If you can,
I'll pull it back up. Hang on a second. Yep. Give me a second. Okay. So that's not it. That's the next one. So don't worry. So I'll go back up top here. A list of examples of this, right?
Yes. And you know how I interpret most of those points, if not all, is kind of, if you fit in the first point, you shouldn't be using Lambda. If you fit in the second point, you shouldn't be using Lambda. You shouldn't be using Lambda. You shouldn't be using Lambda. This list is basically a list of cases that are not a good fit for Lambda. Not that Lambda is bad. I'm not trashing now Lambda. You're just telling people that they should use Lambda for the use cases that are much better off somewhere else. I'm not saying 100%, so I'm pretty sure that somebody is going to start yelling now. I mean, you cannot yell because you're not live, right? But to yourself, saying, no, I have this use case. I'm sure that there is a use case, but you don't make a change to such a big monster service like AWS because there are 2-3 use cases. They envision a lot of people using that, and that's terribly wrong.
Yeah.
That's my 2 cents.
This feels like I'm trying to do stateful sets inside of Lambda, and that just feels wrong in all sorts of ways.
Yes, exactly.
In general. So we'll see what happens. That's all I'm going to say. We'll see what happens. All right. And we sort of skipped ahead to it, but we got sort of a quick little tool roundup today. And the first one is Lens. We've talked about Lens a couple of times. I know some of y'all have used Lens, are using Lens. There was a new version of it that came out this week. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that. So if you're using Lens and you haven't updated yet, figure out if you want to update. Now here's the second one that I saw this week that I had not seen before. Infra app. Have you heard of this?
No, that's new to me. I like the domain that I managed to purchase. That's brilliant.
Oh, yeah, for real. So what's interesting, it's in early access for both Mac OS and Ubuntu right now is the only 2 places you can run it. It is going to be a paid product, but the pricing still shows basically free on both sides. Now here's the interesting thing. And I'm sort of scratching my head and I haven't dug totally deep. Made with love by the creators of Kitematic and Docker Desktop.
You know what that means?
Well, I was hoping you could answer that for me, because I don't know what it means.
It means that all the people that left Docker are creating their own startups with their own ideas. That's what it means.
Okay. That's what I thought it meant, but...
Which is a good thing.
Yeah.
There are many brilliant people there. Yeah. Or that were there, or maybe still there. I don't know.
So this looks interesting, I'll put it that way. I mean, just this one picture right here to where I could just click right over to whichever cluster I want. Not that I want to manage through the UI, but after spending a week with kubectl, I'm ready for a UI. That's...
Yes. So what I see there from... now, I haven't used it, so I might be talking
I haven't
something
either.
a bit silly, right?
Yeah.
But the screenshots that you just passed, if you go back above, give me impression that this is mostly about overviewing, right? Overseeing your clusters, which is, I think, a good idea.
Yes.
If it works, great. Now, but I really like the description at the very top that says manage your infrastructure. You know?
Well, and that's...
I don't think that your infrastructure should be managed through any UI by click, random things happen.
Right,
now,
and that's
monitor,
what this one is. Right? That's sort of what this section is, which editing isn't there yet, thankfully. But yeah, I agree. It shouldn't be point and click.
Yes.
That's a bad idea in
It's
general.
very dangerous. It's kind of part of human nature, right? Kind of something terribly happen, you go there and you fix it the fastest way possible. It's just that then that increases the chance of something happening again.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yep. And then finally, it's an oldie but a goodie, but the client I was working with this week was using it, and it's K9s. And I'd forgotten this is actually pretty good.
Yes.
It was more than reasonable. I was trying to remember all my kubectl commands because I don't have anything set up right now, and they were just, oh, this, like for whatever reason we actually had to force kill a pod. Something got into a bad state. And I could never remember -- grace period equals 0. I remember it now. But there it was really simple. So I would say, and again, all these links will be down in the description for today's show. I would say pick one. Just from a visualization standpoint, a viewing, going back to your word, I think these are all good things to have. I mean, what's your take on that?
I haven't spent. I spent just a little bit with K9s, so and almost no time with others, so I cannot really say use it or not. But yeah, everybody should have, like, I don't know, maybe Friday afternoon, not to say full Friday.
Yeah,
play with random stuff, try it out. There is a lot of useful things.
Yep. Go through a couple things here. So Andre asked, here, we'll go ahead and do this. So Andre asked, sorry, we're just getting back to the comments. We're doing a different flow, so I'm trying to figure out how this is going to work in the future. So Andre asked the question. Andrew answered the question. Hey, Andrew. Hey, Andre.
Yeah.
So I'll let that set. Moz.
I would say that adopt OpenJDK is OpenJDK without lawyers. That's the definition.
As not a lawyer saying that, that's what it is, right? So there was a question here, and you've answered this before, right?
I think it has no future, no present, no future.
So, and I think that probably came from Varun. He may have had different profiles there. But why do you say it has no future? Do you think it has no future or no future at all? Because there's a little bit of a difference there.
No future at all, I think.
Okay.
So simply, some new things will come and definitely replace Kubernetes. But for now, all the Kubernetes competition gave up, basically, right? And you can even see, even Hashi is not really, that is not their star product. That is not where they're betting their future, right? For HashiCorp, Vault is important, Terraform is important, Packer to some extent, right? And then there are things that might be a good ideas, but never panned out. There is no company that managed to succeed with every single product when they have more than one. It never happens. And Nomad was in the same boat like Swarm and Mesos and what else was there? Nomad, right? In Kubernetes. And Kubernetes simply prevailed. That's it. All the investment goes to Kubernetes. Like, for example, what you and me do, right? We're in a software company. We are not building something that works in Nomad. If it works, great, but we are not building it. Almost nobody is. So even if somebody would convince me that that's a great, better, or just as good product as Kubernetes, which would be which would be impossible, still there is everything around Kubernetes that you would be missing on, right?
Yep, that is true. And I'm looking up something.
And then kind of, let's say that you want to manage something, right?
Yeah.
Manage Kubernetes, you get it. Manage Nomad. Show me such thing. Maybe Elastic did something. No, sorry, that's Hashi. What am I talking about?
Yeah.
But no.
Okay. Moz just brought up something, and I obviously it came up in my buffer, so I remembered it. He tried K9s and then found Octant. And let me go ahead and share up Octant here real quick. Why am I not? There it is. Okay, good. So here's Octant, and just another visualization, right? It looks cool.
That one is amazing. Octant is amazing. I didn't want to bring it up because I cannot really compare, so I cannot say more amazing, less amazing. But that is a UI. it's absolutely amazing, and you can extend it to do anything you want in a very easy way. Thumbs up for, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have only 2 thumbs, so that's all I can do.
So is it,
brilliant.
how does it run? Okay. Oh, so it's a brew install and then nightly builds. And it's from VMware, by the way, if you didn't see.
Yes.
It's part of Tanzu. So,
and it's huge community, lots of things going on.
So 2,000 commits, 41 contributors, 23 releases.
Yeah.
They have too many branches. Sorry.
There you go.
Apache licensed. So let's see if that takes us to here's the real page. So you can visualize it. Oh, Octant. Now I get it for doing. Never mind. I missed it. It's a nautical reference. I should have known that, by the way. But okay, cool. So Octant. I'll add that to the list too, Moz. Thanks.
And by the way, Octant is already in the survey list, in the to-do list, out of which 80% will never be done.
You know what? You brought it up, so let's go ahead and go there, because we'll go there a couple more times if I can find the right list. I have too many lists now. Survey. DevOpsParadox.com/survey. Go there. In fact, I will go ahead and pull it up while you're talking. Why did we create this list?
Yes, so the idea is that what we are doing right now, first, before the list, right? We are working on serverless. We don't know yet what will be the form, what will be included, what is the scope, no idea. Something serverless, right? And that is going to be the last topic that is chosen outside of this list, right? Okay. So after that, every single thing we do in the DevOps catalog, I don't know what's the full name, something catalog, will be based on whatever gets the most votes.
Yep. And here's the list.
And FYI, Darin knows, this is a bit confusing maybe, because this was literally our couple of 100 lines to-do list.
Yeah. And basically you're helping make the to-do list prioritization.
Yes, exactly. And so please go there and fill it in. It's very, very helpful, valuable. Whatever is not on that list, there is a huge comment section. Just write down anything.
Yep, right down here at the bottom. There's an other.
There are 2 others.
Oh, that's right. There's this one here too. Yeah, there's 2 others. So you can fill that in there, and you can put anything else there too.
That just shows you that this is the first time I created Google Forms in my life.
Yeah, that's fine. So, and if it's you filling it out, that's great. Tell your coworkers, tell your friends, tell your grandmother. Just start filling it out, because the more data we have, the more data that we have, the better decisions we can make.
Exactly. It will be whatever you choose to, whatever gets the most votes. Now, what we don't guarantee is that, let's say if we choose any of those topics, those are big areas, and there is e.g. like maybe this, maybe that. So there is no guarantee that all the tools or processes in one area will be covered, but something will. That's a promise.
And if you go take a look at, and I'll go ahead and pull this back up here real quick. There is a link off to the catalog site. It's not on DevOpsParadox.com. It's on the DevOps Toolkit series site. There is a course in Udemy. The book is also currently available from LeanPub. That's getting, I saw you did 3 or 4 releases this week alone?
Yes.
I mean, they may have been big and okay. What got released this week? WSL, I think, got released this week.
Yeah, local development. It's not only WSL.
Oh, okay. Local development.
Yeah, setting up local development as I like it. And some other bug fixes and stuff.
Yeah. So now here's the thing. We mentioned this when we released the course, that it is at the lowest price it will ever be. And the only reason why we can't make it lower is that's the lowest price that we can put it on Udemy for. Is that true? Yeah, it is.
I don't know, to be honest.
I think it is. I think $19.99 was the lowest that we could set it at.
Maybe.
I think that's the lowest price. This price is going up. I'm going to set a date for when the price is going up. Are you ready for it?
Set it.
July 31st.
Nah, absolutely not.
Is that too short or too long?
No, it will be in a week.
So,
I thought
all
to
right.
actually do it when we release the first round of serverless. First round, not last.
So,
Yeah.
so once serverless is done, the price goes up. Is that correct?
Yes.
And we'll make an announcement and we'll give it sort of a countdown. You'll get what? We'll give it a week after serverless is done. So pay attention if you're not following us on, or if you're not following Victor because he's publishing it directly from his Twitter account. Follow Victor on his Twitter account, and then we will start blasting it out because when it goes up, it's not going to go up huge, but it's going to go up, never to come down again, unless we're forced to by Udemy.
Yeah.
The book won't come down though. The book will stay where it's at. So the book we have a little more control over. So get your votes in. It's a good idea.
And also, if anybody has a comment, there is no way on earth that we are going to cover all the possibilities and variations of serverless, right? So if anybody has a suggestion what to do first, what to not to do, what to do, any type of suggestions, comments, Twitter, carrier pigeons,
Slack.
anything you want.
In fact, you said it. Go to this. If you haven't signed up for the Slack workspace, go do that. You can go to devopsparadox.com/Slack. It'll take you to the sign up page. It's free. Just go sign up, join the community, ask questions. You can DM both Victor and myself. It's not a DM in Slack, or is it? That's messages. Whatever it is. Go sign up for Slack. Now, and go back here. Maz says he's going to share with his coworkers, but not sure about Grandma. Look, Grandma can fill out a form.
Yeah. She might need to choose random checkboxes.
Completely random, but Maz, that's the way it rolls, right? So it's been a busy week. Open sourcing the book, releasing catalog. Somewhere in there you had a day job.
I still need to do at least 8 hours a day, at least.
So it's been interesting. I think the serverless now. We haven't talked about the serverless one specifically. I saw some of your posts that we haven't talked about yet. I know you're on the roll with what's the Google Cloud one? Sorry, I missed it.
Cloud Run.
Cloud Run.
Yes.
Let's talk about that for just a second. Do you consider that serverless?
Yes.
Okay. So is that in scope for serverless?
I mean, in serverless, I would say that there are different subcategories of serverless. Serverless in general is, I don't really care about platform it's running. I don't care about infrastructure. I give you my code in some form and you make sure it's running. It is highly available. I'm not even going to say scalable because I don't care whether you scale it or not. It's highly available. So my code is running and it's highly available. That would be and I don't care about most of the other things.
Yep. So notice how you phrased that. You said highly available.
Yes.
You did not say fault tolerant or resilient.
Because you can be fault tolerant. You can be not highly available and fault tolerant. That's possible.
Yes.
You cannot not be fault tolerant and be highly available.
Correct.
So in my head, fault tolerance is one of the requirements for high availability, but not the other way around.
Correct. That's an important thing because people will confuse those two phrases. And that's very important.
My application can always be running and just not respond to any requests.
Now, what's the other one that you mentioned when we did the interview this morning? What was the other one that you mentioned? I don't remember if it was one of the Azure ones.
Yes.
It wasn't Azure Functions though. It was something else.
No, Azure Container something. So there are different subgroups. There is function as a service, among others, and there is container as a service. And now it's a bit difficult to actually separate them because OpenFaaS is open function as a service. But realistically, it is really expecting you to give it a container image. Right?
Yes.
It has a ways to help you create that container image. That's a separate story. But so it's blurry lines. But in my head, and actually I've been working before this session trying to define it. And in my head, function as a service is that I give you a source code of my application, or maybe a binary of my application. And you do whatever you need to do. Behind the scenes are containers, but I don't care.
Right.
And then container as a service is that I give you an image, and that image contains whatever I want it to contain. Kind of.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not limited to programming languages you support. I'm not limited by the number of lines of code or whatever. Here is a container image. Do what needs to be done with it. There are other ways to divide and split it. I would. The second way would be maybe self-managed and managed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of, do I manage that stuff and others? But I think that I'm going with those 4 categories as those that matter really.
Right.
And now you speak. I'm going to close the door. Do something.
Okay. So I'll go ahead and speak. He's running away for a second. So it's interesting that when and this question from Moz is actually one that I was going to bring up. So you brought it forward, Moz. Thank you. What about security?
I think that the major question about security is first whether security is independently of serverless, whether that can be accomplished in self-managed or not, or managed something, right?
Yeah.
Because you cannot serverless in your Kubernetes cluster. That's quite okay and acceptable as long as somebody else is managing your cluster. Then that's okay.
Let me see if I can angle it a little bit more. All the cloud services today are effectively multi-tenant for these solutions. So there is a lot of trust that we as consumers are putting in the providers to make sure things are truly multi-tenanted correctly. Let's say it that way.
Yes, absolutely. But then again, we're also putting into John and William that same trust right away, right?
Yeah.
Kind of. I'm not saying that that's the case, but what makes you think that your colleague John is more trustworthy?
Well, it's because he sits beside me. That's the reason why he's more trustworthy.
So he can gain your trust and then stab you in your back. I'm saying no. What I'm saying is that that's a reasonable concern, and I think it's a very valid concern. But also, it's as long as that concern is a real concern, I think that's fine. The reason why I'm often negative on similar comments is that sometimes I feel that concern is more like an excuse not to do something. That's kind of like a wild card.
Right.
Like, I don't want to go cloud, security.
Right.
Now, if it's a valid concern, yes, great.
Moz, hopefully that's our angle. You may have been asking for a different, because security is so broad, it's hard to tell what the right answer is, if there is ever a right answer, because everything could change tomorrow.
Yeah, and definitely, the newer something is, the less confidence we have in that something, and it's quite normal that from security perspective, I'm more distrustful for serverless than for Kubernetes. And by the way, it's the same thing, just to clarify, because serverless is in most cases running in Kubernetes, unless it's AWS, that's a separate story. And then I'm more distrustful to Kubernetes as to running on VMs, and more distrustful for VMs as in on-prem, bare metal. And it's a reasonable thing. I don't trust you until you earn my trust. That I understand that.
At what cost, though? I mean, for some people you have to, but
yeah. So it's kind of the real challenge is how to make something secure without preventing somebody else from moving forward. That's the if security concerns are concerns that are going to stop everybody from being productive, that's a very bad thing. If security is something that somebody is working on and making sure that actually that's part of everybody else's job, that's quite okay. That's very good, actually.
It's a very active time at your place today.
Yeah, it's a lockdown Corona status, kind of like it's an office that many people share here. Many people, meaning my family. So
It's a co-working space, literally.
yeah, I mean, there is a Corona status. There is a Corona haircut. Look at that. That's a Corona haircut as well.
I
a lot
have
of
the
Corona new stuff.
I have the anti-haircut because I still haven't gotten a haircut in 3 months. So, and that will continue for a while. So serverless is next. If you had to roll the dice, not that we're trying to influence the survey, because we're not. But if you had to influence the survey and serverless is done, what would you want to do? What is the itch that you need to scratch?
I don't know. The serverless itch is too big now. I have a difficulty to have long-term planning, to be honest.
Yeah, because serverless is going to take a while to. I mean, how long do you think serverless is going to take to get through? Like
depends on the scope.
Right.
I hope so. I hope to be that we can release one flavor every 2 weeks. Now it really depends on how many flavors we're gonna put.
Yeah,
it can be anything between 4 weeks and then 7 months. I don't know. But
I mean, it's sort of like the serverless platforms are like the versions of JavaScript frameworks, right? They keep multiplying like rabbits. So
yes. At one moment we need to cut it, but again, that will be. I think that the plan is to put it back to people, kind of like I'm right now working on Google Cloud Functions.
Yep.
And the idea is to so I mean not Google Cloud Functions. Function as a service, not Cloud. Not function as a service, no containers in the big three. That's coming next. That's a given, and the rest will. The idea is to go on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever, kind of like, okay, more of this or something else. If you tell me something else, I get happy because I get bored doing the same thing or same subject for a long time.
So Varun has a question or a statement. Do you want to include operational best practices? What day of the week is it? No ops, I think, will eventually come, but it's going to happen after the epoch in 2038. Because that means AI to the nth degree, in my opinion, right?
I mean,
you could do it today, but it's still not really no ops.
I don't see no ops in a literal meaning. So there is that we start calling things like serverless, right? And then do you ever see us not having servers? No. I always see us having servers. But now do I see serverless as whatever is the meaning behind those words that is not a literal meaning? Yes. And similar for no ops. Yes, operations will be simplified. I'm sure of that. And they're actually already much simpler than they were before. If you're using AWS, Google, Azure today, your operations are much simpler than they were before on a first look. And that's the catch. Because it's actually just as complex or more complex running AWS than running on-prem. Because with AWS, you discover that the same things are easier, but then there are so many new things you can do and everybody wants you to do. So I think that complexity never goes away. I think it never becomes easier. It's just that the things become easier and then we jump into the next level. Thing, right?
Yeah, the next thing that becomes hard again. So
this level is now easier, but our work is not easier because we are not on that level anymore.
And you realize we're doing this to ourselves, right? This is... It's like, oh, we need this new thing. Okay, now it's going to take. Well, let's go back to blockchain, right? Don't worry about the cryptocurrency, but blockchain itself is very simplistic.
Yeah.
But then blockchain became horribly complex.
Exactly.
So,
even if things don't become more complicated, the increase in volume of what we're doing, blockchain is actually a good example because blockchain. But then, it became so big. And then the amount of people using, so we need to try to optimize and stuff like it. So even the volume increases the complexity of things.
Well, and maybe that's part of it. And let's answer Varun, and we'll come right back to that complexity question because I have something to say about that. Is the course going to be available for the Udemy enterprise customers? Now, I'll let you answer this because we went through this with the previous ones, I think.
I don't know because it's
out of our control, right?
Yeah, I think that Udemy decides which one goes there. So kind of, it's almost like a chicken and egg thing. I think that there needs to be eligible for that. Certain number of people need to subscribe to your course, and certain ranking needs to be there. I don't know, 4 point something. I'm not sure what is the exact criteria. So first you need to meet the criteria. So you need people to get your course in order for you to meet the criteria to be considered as going business. And then once you're considered for going business, it really depends. They don't really know that courses that much. It's more like checking boxes. How many do we have with DevOps word in the title, right?
Right.
Things like that. So no idea.
So basically, we don't have control over it ever.
I don't even know that which courses. We did 3 courses in Udemy. I don't know which ones are available in business and which no.
I'm not sure there either. So hopefully that answers your question with a non-answer. Sorry, we just don't know. Let's go back to the complexity question for a second. Is it possible that the complexity that we start to see happens because, just like anything else, once you put a system under pressure, you start to see where the leaks are? Maybe when you first start using something, you don't see the complexity, but once everybody else starts using it, that leak starts to happen.
There is definitely that, right? But to me, the more, not worrying, but more problematic type of complexity is simply once something complex becomes not so complex, then we jump into other things, right?
Right.
It's because some of us are always working on solving new problems, right? So you solve the problem and then you jump into solving another problem. So your problem is always equally complex.
Yep.
Depending on where you are. So there are different levels of that complexity and all those things. But you're always trying to find equally complex problem to solve.
So again, it goes back to my point. We're doing it to ourselves.
Yeah.
We're trying to, are we creating work for ourselves and trying to solve the complexity?
But it's not us. I mean, depends what you mean by us, like software or humanity.
Just people.
People, yes.
Yeah.
Because the same thing, like, the way how we design chips today is so much more complex than we did before because we know how to do, or the way how we build cars, right?
Yeah.
They're so much more complex. Simply, we're always searching for new boundaries, kind of like new things to figure out. That's part of human nature, I would say. Otherwise, we will still be stuck with the wheel and the fire, right?
Isn't that pretty much where we're at right now under these world conditions? That's what it feels like. At least we have internet, right? So we have wheel, fire, and internet. That's all we need.
No, imagine this current situation with coronavirus and all those things. Imagine before internet. You were literally stuck in your house.
Yeah.
With no contact with the outside world.
Right. And you had no idea. You didn't have whether mainstream, left stream, right stream media telling you everything, whatever. I mean, it wasn't there.
Like 50 years ago, there would be a car with, speakers going around the street. I don't know if you had that ever in US, but there was, with some kind of news or kind of come to see the new circus in town or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's very interesting. Great times to live in. Varun, thank you very much for going over to Udemy to buy that.
We appreciate it. It's not really a money-making machine, so it sounds like we are making a lot of money.
Udemy's making a lot of money.
Udemy is, and Limpub is not actually. Limpub is not, but Udemy is making a lot of money. That's absolutely true. But it's more like more about basically I don't know. I just ordered a new boom arm. Boom arm. Kind of like it's paying those things, kind of like new PC and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it buys Red Bull. It bought an arm, right? So it's.
If I wouldn't lie, I'm not saying that it would be nice to get to the point where actually we can get salaries from this and maybe employ somebody to help us out. That would be great, but it's not a money-making machine, definitely not.
Yes, editing takes time. Producing the content's easy.
I was about
here and
to
talk,
and then I remembered
It's all the other stuff that takes a lot of time and effort.
Exactly.
So what's your plan for the weekend?
Serverless.
Serverless is the plan for the weekend.
Yes. I'm always more optimistic than I should be. I think that I can release it by the next weekend. I was about to say this weekend, if I work really hard, I can release it.
No.
But then I stopped myself, kind of like, I learned my lesson. It might be next weekend. Realistically, probably not even then.
And then 2 weeks probably from there. So it's fine. It's probably be 2 weeks before that first cut of serverless comes out. It may be before, but go ahead.
There is one thing that I think I need to mention. It's important. I feel it's very important.
Okay.
Is that I'm not going to name the person, but we have one guy that promised to help out. And if more people want to kind of help out, we add you to the repo and stuff like that. I'm not going to mention who you are, but that's very helpful.
Yes. Very, very helpful. So working on catalog, you're working on serverless. I've got to finish up a couple of things. I've got to edit podcasts that we did today. We haven't talked about this. We need to record some next week because we're getting close. We had a nice backlog, and I didn't have to do a bunch of editing for like 2 weeks. And now everything's almost released. It's like, oh, we got to do more. Yes. All right. So let me say this too. So we're going to have on a live guest next week. You will want to listen to this coming week's episode. We talk with the creator of Powerful Seal. We're trying to get scheduling to actually have him on the live. And then in 2 weeks, the gentleman that we interviewed this morning is planning on coming on that day, but we've got some weird scheduling conflicts, so we're trying to get all this squared away. So we might have a guest on next week live with us, but the week after, which would be July 3rd, there's definitely going to be somebody. We just don't know exactly who it's going to be yet. If there's somebody you want us to talk to, and preferably, we'll be glad to talk to the big guys if we can get them, but we'd rather talk to the everyday person. Right? And I'm saying guys, but guys, girls, whatever, right? Because for the people that are in the trenches, those are the people that sure, we'll throw it out there. Who doesn't like to have Kelsey Hightower on a podcast or a live stream? That's great. But I'd rather go talk to, Joe Schmo that's going off and building the latest and greatest cluster stuff. Right? It's like, that's the interesting part of, okay, how are you really pulling this off? It's sort of like when we talked to Carlos, and he's managing multiple. Now, Carlos is a big name, but we know him. But besides that, what was really interesting in that conversation was he's managing multiple clusters worldwide. That's interesting. Whether I'd actually do that myself or not is a different conversation. But that's a hard problem to solve. That's not a 15-slide PowerPoint presentation. So if there's people you'd like for us to talk to, go join the Slack workspace. If you didn't see the link earlier, there's the link again. I'm doing a little bit of marketing here. Come on. This is all free. Please go sign up at the Slack workspace. You can leave us a message, and then we'll try to track some people down. We enjoy talking to people. Now, whether or not they enjoy talking to us is a different conversation. So which programming language are you going to use for serverless? I know the answer. I'm going to cry. Yeah, go ahead.
So I was about to say before this question, hey, we should have a segment of what frustrated us this week, because that answers part of that. So the line of thinking, and that can still be changed, is kind of, okay, Victor, stop insisting on Go. You're probably boring people and all those things. Let's try something else. Let's do JavaScript. That's the thing that probably a significant percentage of people are using. It's so frustratingly frustrating. And here comes. I had I couldn't stop laughing yesterday. I created examples in Google and AWS and Azure, and Hello World, Hello World, just outputs Hello World, nothing else.
Yep.
Now, make a wild guess. How many npm dependencies you need for Hello World in Google? In Google, give me the number. Hello World, only Hello World.
npm dependencies?
Yeah, npm modules.
I know what you're saying. Probably close to 300 or 400. That's what it feels like.
48 for
Okay.
Hello World. But then Azure function was, and I had to write it down, 431 dependency. 431 dependency.
Were you doing this with just the basics, or were you using serverless.com?
Serverless.com. Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Right. I did not really bother to go and check whether it's needed or not, but simply the fact that it exists, no matter whether that's a real world use case or not, the fact that something that is Hello World and it has 431 dependency exists. It's just funny.
So you've only done 2 of them, right? So Google was 40-ish and Azure was 400-ish. It's 10x.
It gets worse.
Oh, wait, it gets worse. Okay.
It gets worse. And I didn't manage to fix it yet. I don't know exactly what's the issue. I need to work on it.
Oh, so it's not even working yet.
Then I say deploy it, and they say it's missing dependencies. And I was like, man. Okay.
It makes you appreciate Java, doesn't it? Right?
Okay. I mean, there are good sides about JS, but this is insane. This is.
Yeah.
I mean, I could download whole Wikipedia probably faster than dependencies of Hello World.
And all it takes is somebody getting upset and they pull it out of the registry and everybody's stuff blows up.
Yes. What was the question?
There
was a question. I forgot.
The question was, which programming language are you using? You were trying JavaScript.
I will be using. I'm kind of like,
okay.
I will be using JavaScript. I wanted to switch to Python. And then I remember the madness with the environments in Python that kind of makes everybody go crazy, and making it work of everybody's compute laptops is challenging if you're not a Python developer. So it's going to be JavaScript. I'll make it work somehow.
Oh, man. And you are using the serverless.com framework?
Yes.
For now. Okay.
Yes.
Or at least for this first pass. Yeah.
For FAS only, for function as a service, self-managed FAS. And I think that this will be, so this is a sneak peek. I don't know yet, but at the end of the big 3, FAS in big 3, there will be summary. I suspect that the summary will be don't do it. So.
Well, okay, so I used serverless. When did I shut down the product? It's probably been about 2 years since I last used it. Somewhere in that ballpark. And once I understood what I was doing, which took me a little bit, it actually wasn't bad.
What was it?
I'm not saying it wasn't great. What do you mean?
So
I had written. It was an application that I had basically broke down to functions because it was all event-based stuff anyway. It was just I drop a message and something was happening, and then I'd go off and do other things. So there were about 9 or 10 functions based on. There were 10 functions complete if you went through the full flow, and then it was like 7 if you didn't go through the full flow. And it worked out okay. Now, the thing I didn't like, as I've learned over time, is I was doing everything in a mono repo because I had this common library. Now, it was small, right? It was only 10 things, so it wasn't a big deal. But based on what I've learned with my day job over the past few years, please don't do mono repos. It's it's convenient. It's a bad idea. It's a bad idea for a lot of things. I'm not saying it doesn't work for some things. It makes sense for some things, but
can I assume that whatever you were doing that we're talking about 3 digits lines of codes in total, or?
Yeah, it was small. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you, if you would do it today, would you just do it as a one thing, or 9 or 10 or whatever you said?
There are a couple pieces that I would probably still leave out, because one of them was basically, it was handling hooks from OneDrive and Dropbox, and I had a third one. I don't remember. Maybe it was Google Drive. I would be okay leaving those out just because of how they were handling it. But then I think everything, all the real business stuff, I would definitely go back to a baby monolith, if you will.
Yeah.
Because the real business functionality. I mean, it was cool to actually have everything completely decomposed, but you know, I've been thinking about rebuilding it just because I want to take another shot at that project, and I'd probably go back to a monolith again, just overall, because I don't get that much traffic. But here's the thing: if that project turned into a product, and I needed to scale it, and all of a sudden it hockey sticked on me, I would not necessarily need to scale the whole thing. I might only need to scale just those little pieces of where I'm bringing in hooks from Dropbox and OneDrive and stuff like that. Whereas the monolith would still be fine by itself. I wouldn't need 70 of those. I'd only need just. So it's those kinds of things that are like, yeah, whatever.
But my problem is that I think that we, and when I say we, I mean industry right now, have serious kind of back and forth, monoliths, microservices, and in most cases, I think that those discussions are a bit silly because it's one extreme against the other, right? Kind of, microservices go crazy or monoliths go crazy. Yeah. But if we are still having those discussions, like kind of, is it microservice or a monolith? And in microservices, probably the size of a microservice is size of everything you were creating at that time, right?
Yeah.
Together. So function is too small for my brain to base any serious system. Now, pet project, yes. I want to learn it, yes. But I have such a difficulty to, if I could take 1%, look, of any like enterprise company, like 1% of a bank,
right,
and convert it into functions, I will still have to deal with thousands or tens of thousands of functions.
Yeah.
That's complex.
Highly complex. And that takes us back to our complexity conversation.
Now, some people might say, hey, that's actually argument for everything to be one huge, massive monolith, right? So I'm not going there. I'm just trying to find that maybe that's a different extreme that I'm not willing to go in yet. Now, and I think that's important yet. Maybe the tendency of the industry is that we will be continue going towards smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. That's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I'm having difficulty to kind of like with people I work with to get a grasp of small things. Nano things, not today.
Yeah. We'll let this be the last question for today. I'm wondering, why do you need 400 dependencies to run Hello World?
Exactly. I mean,
we're not arguing the point.
No, I'm pretty sure that if I would have willingness and time to go into that, I could reduce those dependencies. I'm sure of that. I'm kind of. It's just. I think that those 431 dependencies, they reflect a kind of disease in this industry that nobody really cares anymore. Yeah. Kind of whomever created this template. I'm using a template, so let's be clear. I did not create it from scratch. I'm using a template. Whomever created the template did not really thought that there's anything wrong with it. And it wouldn't be a problem if this is the first. It's just that I saw that same pattern over and over and over again. Nobody cares. Yeah. And that's very boring, I think.
Yeah. Great way to end it. Thanks, everybody, for hanging out today for almost an hour. Actually, just over an hour. Or right at an hour now. So hopefully everybody has a great weekend. We will be back next Friday and definitely the Friday after that, because the Friday after that is July 3rd and I get a day off.
You get a day off?
I really get a day off. No, but it's an official national holiday. So in theory, the answer is yes, but we'll see. Things can change. So anyway, again, if you got questions or anything else, first off, go fill out the survey, devopsparadox.com/survey. If you haven't joined Slack, go do that. It's at .com/Slack. And that's pretty much it. Stay safe out there. If it's nice where you are, go play. Get outside, see the sun. Unlike I'm not seeing the sun much. But hey. And Victor, it's time for you to go work on serverless.
No, I'm going dinner.
Oh, you're going dinner.
I haven't.
I know.
And I live in Spain. We're kind of we feel miserable if we don't go out to eat every day.
And here where I am, at least things are starting to open back up, but we still don't go out. So that's fine. Thanks, everybody. Good seeing you. We'll see you again next week.
Cheers, everyone.